Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another session of Facebook Live. Today we shall be discussing the need for market-oriented skill development and vocational training for youth of lower income families and how CSR can play a role in that. To discuss on this topic, I have with me Meenakshi Nayar from Itasha Society. It's an NGO which works vocational training for youth of these lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Meenakshi has been working in this sector for almost over a decade, and she set up this NGO. Previously, she was also working with the corporate in the corporate sector. Hi, Meenakshi.
Hi.
Before we start, I would want to know from her, why is skill development and vocational training important?
If you're, I guess, asking in the context of underprivileged youth,
Yeah.
skill development and vocational training is hugely important because the basic issue with youth in this segment is that they do not have access to resources.
Right.
Resources which get them good education, really good education, to help them realize their potential and to get out of the cycle of poverty in which their families are stuck. So, with the country's focus on education in the last few decades, we are getting more and more young people into, and through high school. Right. But the problem today is that these young people who are typically first generation learners,
Right.
they have been through school, they have a school certificate, but they do not have the skills for employment. And they have no way of realizing their potential.
Right.
Or the aspirations that have gotten ignited in them. Mm-hmm. All of them do aspire and actually do join college.
Right.
But typically as correspondence students or part-timers, and so obviously do not get the education that will help them move out of it. Absolutely. They're only wasting years. So vocational training, skill development, particularly obviously of the kind which is market oriented and which gets them into jobs, is the only answer.
Right. We often hear this phrase that India, if it has to realize the potential of its young demographics, it needs skilled youth, right?
Absolutely.
But what are the challenges the youth from lower income families face, youth from such socioeconomic backgrounds face, mm-hmm. to even get into such training? They often get dropped off from school very early age because of the challenges they face financially. How is it difficult to mobilize such youth?
See, youth who fall out of school, who drop out of school, is a whole different problem. But even those who complete school, right, mm-hmm. and are ready to work, either they need to work, mm-hmm. Sort of immediately to start earning something. Although they also aspire for college education and do join that, but they don't have the skills. Right. They don't even have the access. In fact, the truth is that most of them have had no familiarity with the organized sector. They have no context of the organized sector. So they don't even know how to look for a job. Mm-hmm. So there are many aspects of this which are actually major challenges. Mm-hmm. And challenges, of course, are galore. If you look at the other biggest challenge, which I think we in India face, is that mirage of the government job. Okay. Everybody at this segment, in this level, ask them their dream job, and it's a government job.
Absolutely.
Which is lots of money, lots of security, all the benefits, and no work.
Right.
So it is the dream job, which is obviously militates against the whole work ethic and working hard to earn a living and to grow. Yeah. So, and the unfortunate part also is that not just them, their whole ecosystem believes this. Absolutely. The families believe it, the teachers believe it. Because typically these students would have studied in a government school, right? And the government school teacher, again, is a government employee
Right.
who personifies that and obviously believes that that is a great job. And they see it. They see how much their teachers work.
Absolutely.
They see it all around them. So, but talking about challenges, there's another big challenge is that private sector is seen very negatively.
Okay.
It continues to be seen negatively all around as an employer.
Right.
Yeah? And so, they're not even aware of where to go. What are the options? Somewhere there's a vague sense that MNC is a good option. But then, obviously, they have no way of getting there. They have no way of getting to the private sector either.
Right. How do you create desire or need for, to have the skill development or training in such youth?
I will come to that, but if you permit me, I'll talk about one other, very critical challenge,
Okay.
which is the absence of career guidance.
Right.
Now, these kids who go through school, they do well, they think the families think they are heroes because they've completed high school.
Right.
But neither the families can help them. They obviously, like all young adolescents, don't know what the hell they want out of life.
Absolutely.
Their teachers won't help them either because the teachers are also not aware of the opportunities today. But the biggest issue is that the system, the education system, does not require the school to provide systematic career guidance.
Okay.
Yeah? And if that guidance is available, youth are in time made aware of their potential, their abilities, what they are suited for. They are made aware of the opportunities available in today's world, which is
Right.
changing so drastically in terms of the job environment. Then obviously they will start getting oriented towards it.
Right.
They will start getting oriented in the right direction.
Absolutely. There is a huge gender element in this whole scenario, and when we, mostly the women and the girls in from the lower income families or from the marginalized sections are often, told to just do home related work, and they are not seen someone who would go and work essentially in the formal sector. How much becomes an impediment, this kind of thinking, to impart training to girls?
That is a huge big challenge in our whole system.
Right.
But with education, of course, the higher segments are seeing it more positively. But at this segment, at lower strata of society, that negative, perception about girls working, families sort of depending on the daughter's income. Girls going out to work are seen as fast girls.
Right.
Girls who work are not considered as good marriageable material. Girls who go into an unsafe environment.
Right.
All of that is so strong and comes from the whole system, from the parents, the larger family, everybody around. So there is a lot of challenge every girl who wants to break out of this and wants to get out of it faces.
Absolutely. With the emergence of technology and this emphasis on digitization, has it also changed how skill development and vocational training is now looked at?
It must.
Right.
A, the jobs are changing. B, the way to deliver the training is changing. The need for the training is changing. So, yes, technology can help. Technology certainly can help make skill development more easily deliverable.
Right.
More, something which a sense of touch and feel can be given to students, and so get them to, tune in much faster. But if we believe that technology will give us the scale that is required in a country, technology alone, I would disagree.
Okay.
Because I think the basic issue with this segment is that they need a lot of mentoring.
Right.
So the ideal thing is a combination of face-to-face and technology-based approaches which can get the benefit of both.
Right. India has a huge population and most of it's young. Does the country have a proper infrastructure wherein youth can be given market-oriented training, especially those from the marginalized community? Does it have the resources, the physical infrastructure, proper ITIs?
Look, actually, if I again step back a little from your question, you had earlier asked about what, how to go about this and so on. But combining the two questions,
Right.
really the issue is that whatever, to my way of looking at it, a lot of the focus on skill development today that we have through our system, the larger government system through the NSDC and so on,
Right.
is not even reaching the underprivileged segment. Perhaps it's not even targeting them.
Okay.
Because A, the fee structures, B, the assumption that the student will come in on their own, that people are looking for skill development, which is so far from the truth. The other built-in problem in that is that all of that is based on certification.
Right.
Certification which includes a very large element of paper and pencil
Absolutely.
examinations. For a skill program, to start with, I think there's an anomaly there. But if you look at this segment and the education they've been through, their writing and reading comprehension skills are so pathetic. They are never going to be able to, a very large number of them, are not going to be able to clear the written exams.
Right.
So that whole system is not even, addressing them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
So coming back to earlier, you mentioned these negative perception of corporate.
Mhm.
But how much can actually corporates play a role in this in skill development?
Oh, huge, absolutely. Because one of the biggest issues is the lack of education and training being, relevant to industry.
Right.
The lack of relevance of the training to industry, whatever our formal systems, the ITIs or the polytechnics or the engineering colleges. The curricula are outdated. But more than that, the trainers are not tuned into the reality of industry.
Right.
They do not have the latest knowledge or skill or focus on the equipment or
Right.
what the technology is doing. So that role has to be played by industry. And there are lots of vehicles which the government is floating, the latest being the DST scheme, the dual skill training scheme, in which industry can come in and part of the training is done in the ITI and part is done in industry, where industry ends up getting a semi-trained person but trains them on the job and yet pays them lower than the minimum wage. Now, there is a win-win in it for industry, for the student who is looking for getting in at the first level into the right kind of industry and growing with that segment with the right skill.
Okay.
So schemes like that are there. There are also lots of other options, things which are being thrown up through the sector skill councils and which NSDC and the chambers are floating. But how much is industry really participating in it for the purpose of creating larger value? Nobody has to commit to take in those employees necessarily.
Right.
But you're contributing to the largest ecosystem, which will help get you the employees that you need in the long run.
Absolutely.
So there is a win-win in this for industry as well, if they take a slightly longer perspective. But then again, today there's another way of looking at it, that the CSR Act does require industry to, to contribute to the social good.
Right.
And there is, okay, it's not mandatory, but yes, it's a desirable thing, and most industries do want to do that. It would make sense for industry to to put that piece into skill development, which is, after all, for their good.
Absolutely. Do you see that there could be a more collaborative partnership between the NGO sector and the corporate sector, and then the government can come together and build something together? That would be a much better approach of reaching out to more youth.
Yes, of course. There can be no two ways about it. But okay, there are all kinds of players in every sector. The government schemes have to be seen more as enablers, rather than the government's role has to be of an enabler, facilitator,
Right.
rather than of an implementer. And if that is seen, then sure, there's lots of good that can come out of it, and is actually coming out. We have been, as a skill development player, all our funding support has come from the corporate sector in all these years,
Right.
and it's growing. I'm very happy to say that. And we are getting, in fact, the skill development projects, actually, if you look at it from the point of view of CSR, they are ideally suited to industry involvement, because there is a clear end result, there's a clear output, outcome, impact, all of that is so clearly visible,
Right.
which fits in with industry way of thinking of, getting value for their money. So skill development is, again, I would say, it is eminently suited to CSR involvement.
Right.
I would only say here that the corporate sector also needs to understand, CSR needs to understand that while there's output is important, the outcome and the impact is very important, and therefore we have to look at skill development for the sector with a slightly different perspective, because here the issue is not just of skilling the youth,
Right.
it's not just of skill development, it is actually mindset change.
Right.
As we talked about all the challenges that these youth come in from their families, the community thinking differently about jobs, about skill development, about education, all of that. So a big part of it is that mindset change which this young person has to go through,
Right.
to make him or her suitable for industry, for him and her to be excited about working in industry and of growing and developing there. So that's one part of the mindset change that is very, very critical here. The other part is that whole work ethic which industry needs, which is required for growth, which unfortunately our schooling system, and particularly the schooling system that these young people are exposed to, does not build into them.
Right.
So the whole discipline, the whole approach to think about themselves with a can-do approach rather than being diffident and hesitant about everything around them. So all of that is a lot of hard work, and very sincere mentoring is required
Right.
to bring that change about in the young person.
Okay.
That must be appreciated. It cannot be seen as a pure input-output model with a clear, result in terms of very, very defined, simple outcomes.
Okay. We shall take some questions from the audience. We have Ajit Suyvanshi saying that educational system has become business nowadays. No jobs available for graduates, engineers on the basis of degree. I would add to that comment. Do we need skills and development at the center of education now? There needs a systemic change.
Oh yes, of course. There certainly needs to be a change from the thinking that a degree makes you suited for a job.
Right.
We have to look at it, the job seeker has to look at it from the point of view of the employer. Why would the employer Now, why does the employer take you on? Only for the kind of work you can do, the skills that you have, the output you will produce,
Right.
the results that you will get for the employer, not for your degree. So the degree-oriented approach needs change, the skill development approach, the skilling approach needs to come in.
Okay, one last question. This is coming back to the youth from lower income families. They usually get, sort of marginalized in the whole scheme. Do you think that there should be some kind of reservation, let's say, or it should be mandated within the schooling system that people from lower income families should be given these additional, at the expense of, let's say, these expenses are taken care by the state or by the corporates?
I, at least, am personally completely against the reservation system. I do believe that everyone needs to invest in themselves for their own growth and their development, and we should only facilitate that to happen, rather than compelling industry. Industry needs to earn its profits, needs to do its job well. So they must look for only the best. Otherwise, how do they produce the best quality? So people must understand that and gear up to that challenge. Though I would say that the challenge is not just at the level of the youth, it is for the whole community. So even the whole skill development effort in the country must look at this as a holistic, with a holistic approach, but multi-pronged strategies for changing the mindset. A little, if I may just to explain the point of view, the way we are doing it in Itasha, we are focused on employment and income generation of the youth, but we don't just work with the youth when they are 18 years old and ready to work. We have started to work with them while they are at school, to change their mindset, to develop the skills, to give them the career guidance. We've also started working with their teachers to make the teachers understand the whole context of employability and skill development, change their skill sets, change their mindsets. We started working with mothers, making them income earners for the family, so that they earn respect and they respect skills in turn.
Absolutely. We'll end up on that note. We'll keep this conversation going on in our next Facebook Live. Thanks for coming and sharing your views. Thanks for